tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
People say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down.
Welcome, AfterBuzzers, to another Face-Off After Show, Season 8, Episode 2, Monkey Business. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV, or check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud. And don't forget to leave us a comment with your various thoughts and opinions. Quick shout out too to a couple people, Luke Livermore and V2K81.
Yep, exactly.
Thanks for saying nice stuff about us on the YouTube. It made us feel good. And also be sure to tweet us using the hashtag ABTVFaceOff, so that way we can check you guys out, maybe give you a shout out on here too as well. We love interacting with each and every one of our viewers. So and also you can find me on Twitter as well. I am Alana Jordan, and you can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan. I'm here with my amazing co-host tonight.
Yes, I'm Emma Fyffe, and you can find me on Twitter at Emma Fyffe. Really creative.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My name is Alexis Torres, and you can find me at atorres890.
And we're so excited because we have an amazing guest tonight. One of our favorite contestants we were talking about last week.
Yes.
Regina Jiganti. Welcome.
Hi.
So what did you guys think of this episode?
I mean, Rick Baker was still on it, so it was perfect.
So that's all you have to say.
Exactly,
really.
yeah.
And also kind of sad, but that's how it is every time we have an elimination.
Yes.
So I didn't mind it, but at the same time,
This was an intense one because we had so much setup for our first episode for this challenge. Threw in that little twist at the end, so we were all just left going, what? So, for those of you who, well, everyone should probably know
Yes.
what happened on episode 1. But we had our aliens that crash landed in the desert. We had our 3 different setups with our returning champions. And then last week we had the twist thrown in that they actually landed not on Earth, but on a primate planet. So this week we got to pick out our monkeys too. How was that experience, getting to be there with all of the different monkeys up there? Did you get to play with any of them?
No, we didn't get to play with anyone. I was so excited to be there, though. Monkeys are so cute.
They really are. And they're so cool, too. Like, every time I see monkeys or gorillas or apes or any sort of primates, I always, freak out anytime they do anything with their hands because they have the opposable thumbs like people. It's crazy.
They're so cute. And you guys had the white-faced capuchin, which I think is the cutest of all of the monkeys. I loved them.
The trainer kept on having her do, little tricks and stuff, so she'd, sit at the end and be like...
Oh, that's so adorable. And I love that you took into account too, they had the age of the monkeys kind of, and saying, this is an older monkey, let's incorporate that into the makeup, have them be an older, wiser leader, which I thought was a really nice touch to kind of take that into account.
Thank you. Yeah.
We had the squirrel monkey, of course.
I
Laura's
thought that
team.
one was the most adorable.
That one was pretty cute. It was
so
pretty
cute.
cute. Unfortunately, ended up being kind of the demise for that group, was throwing in that.
Yeah, I felt
monkey
that they
element.
went in a weird direction with that monkey. They had this cute little squirrel monkey, which is one of the most adorable creatures on the planet, basically. And the route that they went with him was to make him terrifying. I mean, ultimately, the makeup just didn't work out, but I think that even in terms of their concept, there was a little bit of misdirection. He could have been a sort of mischievous, manic, tiny, still adorable, evil dictator, but they kind of just went for generic, angry, evil monkey king. and it did not really work out.
Yeah, see, I was on a totally different page. I kind of wanted her to be this like beautiful looking, female. I mean, I know that you guys did more of an aged, female, but I wanted her because she has the monkey had such a young face. Mm-hmm. So in my brain, I was like, yeah, it should be something extremely elegant to kind of deter from this violent alien that they had.
She could have been like a childlike empress from Neverending Story. But
exactly. I think it would have been great. It would have been a good balance to what they had, but I feel like it was like they had already like two elegant kind of aliens and then another elegant one, but at the same time, I don't know, I think it was just a good theme to go with. Mm-hmm. So
I agree.
And it came out a little Mojo Jojo.
Yes!
But I mean, it still worked. It was a nice overall look. And then Anthony's team had the mandrill. How is that, throwing in that last minute element? Do you just kind of freak out a little bit, or?
It was scary. I mean, just the fact we thought we only had the amount of time we originally had. Mm-hmm. So when they gave us that extra day, it was a little bit more relieving. But plus, like, for us, it was kind of nice because, like, I thought, or our team thought, it was another chance to kind of sell our concept for our characters.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. It's funny because in the last episode, I was a little unclear as to what your team's concept was. Mm-hmm. And then in this episode, all of a sudden when they're like, oh, okay, well, the arachnid is the native creature that is the slave of the monkey queen, I was like, I get it now. Mm-hmm. Whereas before I was like, I don't understand this higher being and the arachnid thing. Like, I didn't quite get in the first episode that the arachnid was supposed to be the native creature of the planet, and then just throwing in that other element of having the monkey queen just really grounded that idea in general for me. So I think it was extremely successful, and you're right, it did give you guys another chance to bring like all three of those makeups together.
I really liked too that, I guess they liked both concepts, that your team was the one that had two different elements, two different characters that the judges really connected with and really liked, because that's such a rarity really on the show, is that they like everything about a certain concept. There's normally some sort of nitpicky element that they throw in, and you guys did a really great job of bringing all the characters to life and having that cohesive story. So
I was so nervous when they called their names. I was like, oh no.
Wait, when they called your names during the judging, you thought you were up for like, this is terrible judging?
Every single time I was like, oh God. I'm like shaking too.
Well, because this episode was the first time really that you were all in the judging room.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in heels too.
I know. I did notice your shoes on the show. I was like, oh, that girl is working some shoes. And maybe not the right choice for the first time. You have to like gracefully walk out on stage and have people.
I think you played it off really well. I was like, she's looking A-okay right now. Yeah, the dress is my favorite. I was like, nice.
That's another thing, is we get distracted by just your attire on the show too. Is we're like, the contestants look so good, and we're supposed to be looking at the makeup. So
it was cool because my mom got me that dress right before I went on the show, and then it ended up being a lot like what our characters. She's like, I gotta wear this.
I wasn't the only one that noticed that. I was like, wow, she's kind of matching her character. I like that.
Yeah.
how is it having two such big names like Rick Baker and V. Neal staring at your work while you stand there silently?
Like I said, I was shaking.
Phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I loved too that Rick Baker was so positive with all of his comments for everything. He would give that really good, the helpful advice, but was also very understanding, I think, because it's such a surreal environment that you're put in, to have this strict time constraint, to have to do all of this work, and you've just met each other and you're having to work together as a team. So I think these early challenges are just such an interesting thing to watch.
For all of us, it was just like, okay, I trust these guys. I think they can pull through. I mean, they made it here. And then having Rick Baker, it was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, I really trust these people.
I was going to say, because, I mean, at this point, you guys had not worked together for that long. Mm-mm. So all of a sudden, you have the person who has won more Academy Awards for Achievement in Makeup Design than anybody else is judging your makeups.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But I agree with you, Elena. Like, he always comes across as so positive in any interaction that I've seen him in various situations in life. Was he that positive throughout the whole experience?
Oh yeah, he was awesome. Like just sitting in our groups when we were first coming up with the concepts, he's like, "Hey guys, like what's going on?" It was so cool. Like, I don't know, I was starstruck when I first saw him. I was like, okay.
I think you have to be a really strong or oblivious person to not be. Like, I think to not be starstruck by Rick Baker, you actually have to not know who he is.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely, in this one too, liked that they had the element of getting to see you guys interact kind of behind the scenes, where you had the champions come and get to hang out with the contestants, and we had Rob and Race talking about leaving family behind and being in this new environment, all living together in the house. Did you have a lot of time to interact with each other during?
Not much. I mean, we had talked here and there, but as far as like having our coaches and stuff, that was the first time that we were able to like actually sit down and like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You're not seeing us working or yelling at us for taking too long.
I know Race was really getting on you for taking so long in the arachnid phase.
But yeah, it was really interesting to have them there. It was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, especially I mean, barbecue, come on.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a barbecue? And that is a really nice barbecue setup that they have at that house also.
I remember when we were watching, you were saying that when they first knocked on the door, you didn't even know that it was the champions, but it was the crew just off doing something. So for the show, do they not really give you that aspect where they say, hey, they're coming, get ready?
Yeah, it's all, I mean, it's pretty real. I mean, it's all realistic. You know, we're all like, okay, wait, somebody's at the door? What? It's like Anthony's like, da, da, da. Oh, hey, guys.
So a lot more organic than most reality shows where it's very set up and they're like, okay, do that again. We didn't catch it the first time.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Did you get any instances of them being like, oh, do this again or say this line, like we need to get this for camera?
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm quiet. So like, they're like, can you say that again?
I know when we were reviewing too, we brought up a little bit last week too about how another element that sets this show apart from a lot of competition reality shows is that there doesn't seem to be as much between contestant drama that they have in a lot of the other shows where they really play up those elements. But you were saying,
I mean, there is drama between people. I mean, obviously it's going to get stressful in the work environment. People are going to be like, why are you doing this? Or, you know, you don't need to be doing this, because everybody learns in a different way. But at least for my season, I know all of us, we still talk to each other.
Nice.
I mean, I was just talking to a couple of people before I left for this. Like, you know, we're all really, really good friends, so.
Yeah. I think that the nature of this season, too, lends itself to that, because you were forced into a situation right away where you were on teams and you were all working together. Now, when you went into actually taping the season, did you know that that was how it was going to be this time around?
The team, no.
So that was a total surprise to you then.
Oh, yeah. It was really cool, actually, though.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like, the past champions and stuff, like, I was a huge fan of Laura, Race, and Anthony, so I was kind of excited to get to know them and see them and work with them.
Yeah.
So
I think, too, that there is, when you're thrown into that situation, into any competition show, and you're kind of out for yourself, it must be kind of nice to have a sort of built-in support system in your team. That's not necessarily something we see all the time in reality competition shows.
yeah, I mean, having that team aspect, though, too, like, my team got super close to each other. Like, I mean, every single night we were all eating dinner together.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what are you going to cook for me today? And it's like, I'll cook you a burger, you know, because I'll have that, I guess. And like, so, like, actually it was funny because after we got our teams, we all kind of got a little bit cliquey in the house.
I can see that.
But we still talked to everybody. but we would be in a room with everybody, and then all of a sudden it would kind of like weed out, and it would just be like team race. I was like, this is kind of cool, guys. So what are we gonna do tomorrow?
So is there ever any other project that maybe you and Team Race might be doing later on? I'm not saying like anything like big, but I know that you've made such great friendships throughout this season. Is there anything like that you?
Yeah. Maybe in the future. There's a couple of people I know I'm going to be working with. Probably Adam and I will be working on a couple of different projects. He and I, he'll send me a design or something, and I'll paint it because it's just fun. But I'd love to work with that whole team again because they're so much fun. All of us kind of had that energy going just in the original concepts. We're sitting down and we're like, hey, add this. Yeah, I got it already. So
it already seemed to me on this episode of the show, and granted, there was a lot of showcasing of your team because ultimately you guys won the challenge, which was amazing. But I felt like there was a lot of positive energy and collaboration between your team, even when they were calling up people to talk about the top makeup looks that they liked, they were calling up a minimum of 4 people from your team because it seemed like there really were that many people working on everything.
Oh yeah, everybody should have been up there.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it wasn't, anything from just telling us what to do or something like that. It was a teamwork,
Yeah.
So, if we didn't have everybody working on it, we wouldn't have had what we had. So,
how do you decide who does what? Because I know you did the face for the arachnid, painted the for the monkey, the face and the hands. How do you divvy up that work?
Well, I volunteered to do the arachnid face because I was working on the concept with Adam on it originally. So I was like, I think I can probably sculpt this. So I took the head of that, and then we just kind of yeah, well, okay, I'll take that, and we all kind of agreed. So, and we all kind of moved around too. I know Anthony asked me a couple times, hey, what do you think about this? And, same with Adam. I keep thinking a civic dilemma. And then, Rob, I don't know how to fabricate, so I was like, I don't even know how to help you. But whatever you're doing, it's awesome. Can you help me?
I was going to say, because you did fabricate in this episode, but you said it was your first time fabricating anything.
Oh, yeah. I asked, I go, Rob, I don't even know what to use. And he's like, here.
And he gave you that big piece of foam and the little Dremel drill thing.
Yeah, he showed me how to do a couple of things and take a heat gun and bend it and this and that. So I learned a lot from him.
That has to be nice having that element of the teamwork, because so many times on the show you see where somebody does some element that they've never done before and it's their first time trying to figure it out. And a lot of times you see them kind of struggling by themselves for a while and just hey, I know you guys are competing against me, but I don't help me out. So I guess having that team mentality is definitely beneficial. I think that's going to just elevate everybody's work even more on this season than in past seasons that we've seen.
At least for our team, I know one of the things that we were saying was let's just get us as far as we can, because it's there's 15 of us right now.
Yeah.
One of us is going to leave, but it's better if we have teamwork right now, because then we can carry that. So, like I said, I had a blast working with them. And the other teams, too, they're awesome. They helped me in the molding room sometimes, and then I think I even helped Julian with his cowl mold, because I had a minute. And so, everybody was kind of hands-on, I need help over here. Okay.
Yeah. How does it feel having, of course, Mr. Westmore coming in and just helping you guys out? I had to bring it up, guys. I had to do it. I was like, I just want to know, because you were in the room with him, and I would like to know how he is. He seems like just a sweet man, but obviously from last week, we were scared.
Very opinionated.
Yes. He was actually a lot more blunt than I thought he was going to be, but very, very helpful. He's very nice too, but it's kind of scary with him there, because he's I I don't like this. You gotta change this. Do what I say. And it's like, do I do what you say, or do I do what I know?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting with Anthony this week because last week, obviously, they spent a good chunk of the show on how much Mr. Westmore did not like the face that Anthony was making. And I loved when he came in this episode and looked at it and Anthony had redone the face. He's like, yeah, I changed my whole concept. And Mr. Westmore's reaction was basically like, good. You did what I told you to do.
Because he can come across as kind of abrasive in certain situations where, you know, if I was Anthony last week, I probably just would have started crying. Or he's like, get rid of all of that. Do it again. That looks horrible. Okay.
Anthony came up to me. He's like, I don't know what to do. And it was, I mean, it was, like I said, it was kind of cool that we were all as a team because he's able to come up to us and be like, I need help.
Yeah.
And so it is really, what he was trying to do was really hard. I couldn't even do it. So, I mean, I'm glad it kind of changed. And it looked all right, you know.
Yeah, I do think that was, of your team's collection of makeups, the least successful, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't bottom looks, certainly. But yeah, I do think that if he had stuck with that original concept of trying to sculpt, like, mechanical parts, I think was in the original idea, that it may have been a little bit less successful. So
it's really hard to do, like, right off the base.
Yeah. I imagine.
Yeah, it was a very ambitious makeup for the very first round. But I could see people going a little extreme for the very first elimination challenge because you want to be impressive. You want to go, I deserve to be here, I can stay here.
Did you see the mandrel suit?
I know! That was crazy! I was surprised that they didn't like that more.
I was surprised the judges didn't even talk about it. Like they did when they did the closer look. I was like, okay, yeah, there's their opinion, but I kind of wanted them to bring the mandrel up so they can talk about it, and they didn't really do that. So I'm a little sad about that.
And
but yeah,
Jamie built that whole thing. I just saw her. She's got hair all over her.
I was so impressed with the mandrel. I thought that was an incredibly successful makeup. In stark contrast to the other two aliens that team, that was Team Anthony, made. I wrote, my first initial reaction upon seeing those when they came up on the judging stage was, oh, they look a little bit like xenomorphs.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Weird.
But ultimately, I agree with what the judges were saying, that like the faces were just too flat. There was no basis in reality. And what happened was, especially with the one that Kelly had sculpted the face for, and the mold was really too big for the face and didn't line up with the head quite properly, it did end up looking sort of masky, which is always the risk you run when, you know, your things turn out a little too large or bulky or whatever. And because basically what happens is they end up being too thick, I think, and you lose the movement of the face, which is what prevents stuff from looking masky, which was the complete opposite of what happened with your alien, your monkey queen. She had so much movement in her face, and even they brought up the detail of sculpting the tear ducts into the prosthetic itself, which was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's all Logan.
But the paint job turned out beautiful, which you did.
Thank you.
Yeah, which was my favorite out of all of the not competition, but all of the characters that we had. I was like, my favorite was just the markings. I was like, oh, I would have never thought to do that. That was it just popped out, and it was just, I loved everything about it. Yeah. So
I imagine it's a difficult line to walk between adding that detail, because the judges mentioned with the other one that there was the flat face, the lack of detail, versus the very intricate detail in yours, between biting off more than you can chew and adding that element, because there is that time constraint. And like Kelly was saying, she ran out of time. She wasn't able to add in the paint detail that she wanted. And so the full look that she'd imagined didn't come to fruition. How do you gauge that, of how much time you have versus how much you want to put in?
Well, for us, like, I know, actually, like, I don't know if you guys noticed the crystals in her head.
Yeah, I did.
We didn't have that up until maybe an hour before we molded it.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those things, like, do we have time to add that or not? Because it was as far as our concept went, it was like, okay, she's born into royalty. This is her, you know, where she's from. So this is, our crash site or whatever. It had all these crystals and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, so we were like, should we add that? It'll kind of ground her a little bit more, and she's like born into it. But you know, so it was like, do we have time? Logan, can you do that? It'll just add that extra kind of like flair. And he was like, yeah, I guess, you know, like, so he really quickly did it. I was actually really surprised how fast he did it and how awesome they looked, too.
I think that you guys made an incredibly smart choice with the monkey character of really just doing prosthetics for her face and not doing a cowl and, you know, just doing costume and accessories to kind of tell the story of the rest. Because I think that what happened was some people bit off more than they could chew with the added character. And you guys already had so much work to do with that arachnid creature, which turned out amazing. I mean, the face that you sculpted on that arachnid, when Rick Baker went up for the closer look at that and was like, oh, you know, push your teeth up against your mouth, and the little pincers moved like a spider mouth or a scorpion mouth. It was terrifying and amazing, and I was so impressed that you were able to craft something that could do that, could move realistically like a bug.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I love this episode where you get to see the very first judging and getting to see how the judges interact with the different characters that were created. And this something in this episode that they don't normally do, but I love when they add in where they give you the time to say, explain your character, explain the backstory, tell us how these elements all go together to create this cohesive character, this kind of creature environment and how it relates. And I loved that they had that element. They were able to kind of talk about it. So you were able to say, here, the reason that we did this is because she's born into royalty. This is an intrinsic thing that's part of her body. Because sometimes just looking at it, you go, oh, that looks cool, but you don't really think about how it relates until you get the opportunity to explain that and have that brought up. So I'm hoping throughout the season they'll have more of that where they get to interact and explain the rationale behind it.
I think every group had a story about the characters too. Like, I know we had names for our characters. And then,
what were their names?
Well, we had I guess the Monkey Queen or whatever. We just named her that, and then our arachnid, and then Gleep Glorp.
Gleep Glorp.
And Adam had this whole elaborate story of what the planet's name was, what the jewels were, the name of the jewels and all that kind of stuff. You guys have to hear it later.
Yeah. It's hilarious. I'll have to ask him about it.
Yeah. It includes all the judges and stuff, so it's pretty awesome.
Fantastic.
It includes all the judges.
It's I think what Gleep Glorp goes to our alien planets, or what he goes there for is to collect Nevelium on the planet V.
Oh, I love that. That's cool.
So it's and I don't remember the rest, but you have to ask him. He's just got it, and it's awesome. And I think a couple of the other teams have that kind of story too.
That's fantastic.
I want to live on Planet V. That sounds amazing.
As long as I get to dress like the Capitol.
I was gonna say,
I'm fine with that.
Just have fabulous butterfly eyelashes and cotton candy pink hair all the time.
It'd be great.
And talking about our judges, they had some very strong feelings on the characters this week, getting to judges the top looks and the bottom looks. Ouch. So we mentioned you guys had top looks 2, which was nice.
Yay.
Which of course led to you guys being the winners.
Yay!
Which has to be a really nice way to kick off the season, is being on the winning team for the first judging. Did that give you, do you think, extra confidence, or was it just we gotta step up the game for the next one?
Well, actually, it was funny because I was freaking out about my foundation challenge, and so all week I was like, I have to redeem myself. And then when we got on stage and they were like, you guys are the winners, I was like, oh my god. So
I did it.
Yeah. So it was pretty, I guess relieving. But at the same time, I was like, oh wait, I have to do the same thing next week.
Yeah, I could see there being almost more pressure to like stay on top once you are in the top looks. It's like, oh no, I gotta do this every single week.
Did you guys get to celebrate your first win in any way, or no?
No.
I was just curious if everyone's like, yay, let's open something or get food.
I think we all went to bed after that.
Probably, I can see that.
We were all exhausted.
That's how you celebrate is you finally get some sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have the challenge for the next one yet, so you can actually sleep without dreams of molds breaking.
Oh God.
Then we also, Logan, congrats to him for being the first winner. Is it difficult too, being on the winning team but not knowing who is going to be the actual winner, because it is so collaborative that you all do so much work?
Not really. I think Logan really deserved it, honestly. That sculpture was so awesome. I was actually really happy that I got to apply it, because I was like, oh yeah, I know this is gonna win. So
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have picked anybody else out of the group, other than Adam, because he designed all the characters.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Well, congrats on your win. And unfortunately, bottom looks. We also, with our first winner, we also have our first elimination, which is always rough. But we had Kelly, Ben, and Gregory, unfortunately, in the bottom. What did you guys think of the hands that Ben created?
Oh, I had to agree with Rick on that one, that he was just like, you should have just taken it off and just painted his hands. And it was just rough to hear it, because at first I was thinking, oh, he only did just a pair of hands. I'm like, oh no, he did it for both aliens. I forgot about that. So it was just kind of a double whammy on that one.
You know, it's funny, he went into it, at least they made it seem that he went into it knowing that these hands were not really great. That basically when he was making the mold, their fingers fell off or something. I was unclear as to how we lost the fingers, but at some point in this process, the fingers were lost. So we had to try to reconstruct them, and then the hands ended up being really bulky, and he couldn't get them to like really adhere properly to the hands in such a way that they would have any normal hand range of motion. So once again, it's that same thing of like, it came across as Halloween costumey and not organic and born out of someone's actual body. So they just looked chunky and unusable, and I'm totally with you. I have to agree with Rick Baker.
Yeah, because I felt like I forgot whose hands he was using.
Alan's, I believe.
He has giant hands. At least from what I've seen, I have no idea. So in my brain, if you're having a female alien, I don't think she would have giant. I mean, I didn't see the complete concept of the hands, but I felt like they were bigger than her face. So, and they were, large sausage, So I felt like that's where, it went a little off there.
They were definitely very masculine for what was supposed to be a feminine character.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was kind of the feedback for any of the negative things, were that the anatomy just didn't quite make sense. It was disproportionate, or for each of the things that they brought up when they were talking about the monkey and how the anatomy doesn't go that way. When Laura was saying the wrinkles don't naturally, they wouldn't look like that. Yeah. So it's just having that element of making the anatomy make sense for these fictional characters that you're creating, but having them based in the muscle structure of existing animals and creatures.
Exactly, and it's really unforgiving when you're doing primate characters, because let's get real, ultimately, we are evolved from primates. Their facial anatomy just shouldn't be that different than a person. So you have to have a lot of attention to real anatomical detail when you're creating creatures like that.
Yeah, especially with the mouth too, because it was kind of turtle-like. I didn't even notice that until you brought it up. Because primates usually just have a straight line kind of jaw. So I thought it was kind of strange that I thought maybe he was gonna make this story of he's been through battle, he's had so much, so maybe that just kind of evolved over time with scars or something like that. But it did feel like it was kind of bulky, and I didn't understand what his idea was.
What's interesting is I felt like when I saw him sculpting it initially on the face, that it didn't look like that. Is that correct? I mean, you were actually in the makeup room with him was, to me, it looked like the sculpture looked a lot more like a monkey before it actually like got poured into a mold and turned into a prosthetic.
Yeah.
I wasn't over there enough to really see everything.
Right, of course.
They did show like that first sculpture, which I actually really liked.
Yeah.
I don't really know what happened after. So, you know, it's hard though, because it's like you don't know what kind of advice to take, and you've got 5 other people telling you too. It's like, I don't know.
Kelly was struggling in this episode as well, and having that feedback and a little bit of tension when she was trying to create the look of her mold.
Yeah, I agree. I almost feel like in a couple of instances it was like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's great to have the support of other people. Like, for example, with Anthony when he was struggling of like, what should I do? I don't know. Should I take Mr. Westmore's advice? Should I just keep doing what I'm doing? But then you have the converse of that where somebody is working on something and it's actually going relatively well, but they have all these other people with eyes on it going, oh, you should change this. Oh, you should probably change that. If you just made a little tweak here. And I think that what happened was, at least the impression I got, was that number one, Gregory took on a lot of responsibility in this challenge for his team. A lot of responsibility. Like, sculpted the whole face for the monkey character, also poured all of the molds, apparently, because he's good at it. So he's like, yeah, I can do it. I'll do it really fast. So, and I think that with the monkey face, it was just, you know, his attention was too divided. So he took the advice of people maybe a little too literally and just ended up overworking that face.
I feel it was really sad that Gregory was sent home.
I know.
But I do like that the whole first episode he was talking about how he really wanted to be on Laura's team. So at least he had that one kind of mini victory of being chosen by her and getting to have that fulfilled at least. Because I think it is just an element when you have all of those different people saying, do this, and then trying to budget out your time of what can you feasibly do. You don't want to let anybody down and say, oh, I can't do this. But then you also don't want to have the situation, which I think is what happened with him, where you do bite off a little more than you can chew, and you try to overshine a little, and it just doesn't come across that way. But I know you were saying that you guys were friends, and it was hard when he went home.
Yeah. I mean, it's always hard to see somebody go home, even watching it from home. So I know, like, in past seasons, like, before I was a contestant, I was watching it like, no!
Because you're good friends with some past contestants. I mean, I know that Graham was one of your, like, main special effects makeup mentors out here.
Yeah. He taught me, and I actually worked with him for a while, too.
Oh, nice.
So.
Yeah, I saw that that your bio said that you kind of got into Face Off because of season 6 Graham. So
I actually tried out with him for season 6 when he was trying out.
Nice.
But I was like fresh out of school.
Yeah.
And I think I was still working as an assistant to him. So, and I was so glad that I didn't make it on, because I was like, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. There's so many different elements to that, to how things can go. I mean, that's kind of what Gregory got tied up in, is like, what advice do you take? What's the time, that you have to work on this? How much stuff should you take, under your wing, because you want to have your name on stuff,
Of course.
So it's hard, and yes, Gregory was one of my friends, and he's an amazing artist.
Yeah. I think that everybody that makes it onto Face Off is at a level where they are working professionally. That's one of the big differences between like this and a show like American Idol. Is like those people are discovering their talent. You guys are fine-tuning and showcasing your talent.
Exactly. I mean, I was actually kind of curious of how, since you did try out last season, would you have rather have it the way that it was last season, where it's kind of your shining? Or do you like the whole, being in a group and being able to work with all these people, shine as a group, and then shine as an individual at the same time?
I don't know what it would be like to be on that kind of show, so I really don't know. I like how ours was, but again, like I said, I don't know how it would be otherwise.
what do you think has changed for you personally between when you auditioned the first time and when you were accepted for the show now?
I sculpted as much as I could. like, I saw how much Graham practiced and everything, so I was just like, okay, I'll follow that.
Yeah.
You know, so it was really nice because, like, I did have, you know, him that was on the show that would kind of, like, be able to mentor me, too. He actually didn't even know that I was going on.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Wait, he didn't know you were going to be on the show? Like, he didn't know until, like, your bio was on the Syfy website? Or?
I don't know how long it was before he knew, but I never told him.
Oh, wow. Were you still working with him at the time? Or?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. I quit working at the school right before I went on the show.
Okay.
And he quit too as well. I think I quit maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after him. But yeah, I never told him. I actually didn't really tell anybody that I was going on, except for my parents and my roommate. And so I think some people found out. Obviously, it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah.
When somebody goes missing. So, but I mean, it was, I don't know.
How long are you in production for? Like, let's say that you make it from the beginning all the way to the end. Like, how long of a period of your life is that?
I'm actually not sure. I'm not positive on the answer.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Yeah, but you do basically go missing for several months.
Yes.
The one thing I do want to ask, and more contestants if we have them on the show, I definitely want to ask. I mean, I'm not going to ask how long you were on the show for, when you get, and what other guest judges, because I would like to be surprised. But what is the one thing that you can take from your time being there, that either if it was something that you learned on the show or something that you've finessed on the show that you know now as a makeup artist that, I did this on Face Off and people will know that when I leave, or anything like that?
I don't know. To me, the most important thing is, like, honestly, the teamwork. Because it's like, if you, the first, this episode, we're helping everybody and running around, and then, like, 2 minutes later, you're messing up something.
Yeah.
So somebody is like, oh, yeah, I'll help you with that because you helped me with this. So it's like, that kind of really helps you, just in an overall kind of instance. Like, and not only that, but getting advice from other people too. I mean, you've got Michael Westmore that comes in, but it's nice to have other eyes on your things. And it's not like they're gonna be out to get you. Oh, I don't like that. Change that, and then it's like you totally ruined it.
Yeah. No, that is nice. That's something that I didn't necessarily take into account, because I think that I just sort of trusted that, like, you guys have each other's backs, that everybody has each other's backs, and when they go and give you advice, even if it's someone from another team, like, no one's trying to sabotage you.
Yeah, honestly, we're all artists. We all respect each other. I think one of the coolest things about the show is, like, I've never been around that many artists that do the same thing that I do.
Yeah.
So, and at the same, like, caliber.
Absolutely.
So that was, like, the most interesting thing, and there's so much that I can learn from somebody else. Why would I want to, kind of ruin that?
Yeah.
And I love too, you have a lot of different creative elements that you're involved in as well. So that's got to be kind of cool to have the opportunity to work with these people that you meet, because you're saying you're friends later on and you get to really collaborate on later projects as well. Is there anything in particular that you've gotten to do kind of from your face-off opportunity that you might not have otherwise?
Not yet. Hopefully soon. I know, like I said, I mean, Adam and I have been he'll send me, like, a little sketch that he's doing when he's, like, in a meeting or something, and then I'll take it and, like, paint it or something. So, actually, that might go somewhere. We'll see. He and I were talking about that the other day, actually. So, but other than that, that's so far.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you would give now that whenever you get off the show, like, that you would give to artists that probably, or makeup artists that want to go onto the show, maybe to audition, or just even people who are trying to get into the field?
I would just say practice, and keep, like, being humble, I guess, and wanting to learn, because I think a lot of people get caught up in, like, what they already know. And so they don't have the opportunity to learn other things and other ways how to do things. Because there could be a quicker, faster way to do something. So
that's what I was going to say. I imagine that this show teaches you to learn to do things in a different way that's faster and to adapt very quickly and maybe make simpler choices when things go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the show overall teaches you kind of like how to like do what's needed and not go overboard. So I think that's kind of what happened with a couple of teams.
Yeah.
And, you know, they learn from it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely excited to see more from these teams and our different front runners like you. And so let's dive into some predictions.
All right.
Yes, please.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So, who do you guys think is the team to watch? I know, a little biased. I
know. I was gonna say. I mean, she is here, so it's like, as you said, a little biased. But I was really, really impressed with the work that Team Race did this week, and ultimately, once again, it boils down to what we were talking about before of just making smart choices of going. We've created this arachnid character. It is an incredible amount of work. Let's just do a face for this other character and then reduce the workload that we have on ourselves because we're not going to have time to make anything super elaborate. So let's just make a clean, simple makeup that looks really good. And I mean, it was the top look this week. So, and I find that with Face Off, a lot of the times that the people who start on top, they tend to finish on top too. So yeah, Team Race, I was worried about you last week, but you guys pulled it together.
I'm kind of in the middle. I really loved, I'm really impressed of how Team Race did and how we were all thinking like, oh, they better get their act together. And then I'm like, oh, I'm never going to say that ever again on the air. But I am going to go for the underdog on this one. I think Team Anthony was kind of, kicked, in the knees there, but I feel like this is their time to step up, and I'm kind of excited to see what they have. So I don't know if they're going to be like super on the top, but I do want to see them just do well after this last fall. So,
and we definitely want all of your opinions at home as well. Be sure to check us out on youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV and on iTunes and SoundCloud by searching AfterBuzz TV for our roster of over 400 different series that we have wrap-ups for. So check out our other shows as well. And you can also be sure to tweet us on Twitter using the hashtag ABTVFaceOff. We love to hear what you guys have to say. Also leave us some comments in the comment section as well. And where can we find more from you guys?
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay. I was like, go. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at atorres890. That's ATORRES 890.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma Fyffe. And also, if you just love listening to the sound of my voice, you can check out my other podcast, Love and Justice. It's a super serious Sailor Moon podcast, so probably don't listen to it unless you like Sailor Moon. But once again, if you just want to listen to my voice, it's a great place to do it.
And you can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at That Alana Jordan Girl. And thank you so much, Regina, for being on the show. You were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Where can we find more from you?
I am on Twitter at rjiganti. That's RJIGANTI. And I think my Facebook is just Jiganti. Regina Jiganti, yeah.
And we can definitely see you next week on Face Off as well. And hopefully lots more episodes as well.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.